Another woman claims that Herschel Walker forced her to get an abortion. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people? We're Americans.
We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. This is Middle America with Vin and Sori, where we're not left wing, we are not right wing, we are just right. Get it? Okay, guys. Unfortunately, let me just say this at the outset for full disclosure. I know who Herschel Walker is relative to, being a kid, being a sports fan, especially being a violence addict, also known as an NFL football fan. So growing up, vaguely remember Herschel Walker. I mean, my favorite guy was Bo Jackson, but I vaguely remember Herschel Walker. And I know that he's running for office or the Senate or whatever in some state. It's Georgia. I'm pretty sure. What's up, Ian? Oh, Applejack in the house. Yonkers in the house. Knack in the house. So I know that he's running in Georgia, but I got to tell you guys, I honestly have not been keeping up with that race, any of those races. To be honest with you, I have been working pretty crazy on our baby formula company, actually, which is called Fuji Bear. And, obviously there's been some issues with American formula. In the last year and a half or so. You guys know what happened with the whole situation with, a couple of the big four where we had recalls and folks dying, all kinds of things. And you guys know that babies are important to us, etc. So we went to work on finding a supplier that has high standards, etc. And obviously you need that to pass FDA and pass Amazon. So that's been a 2-year process. As you can imagine, it's been pretty strenuous, and we're going live pretty soon. So I haven't been really focused on a lot of things. On top of that, Sori was having a child, and then on top of that, the pregnancy, the delivery was not fun in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, I've been out of pocket. For the followers on the other channel, it is coming soon. I'm not going to give you a definitive date, but we're pretty close to a comeback, and we miss you guys, so that's great. We will send you a if you want to support, you can send. If you want free samples, you can hit us up. All that's coming down the pike. But so apparently Herschel Walker is running for the Senate, and he there have been a couple he says he's pro-life. He says he's going to vote pro-life. And so obviously he would be in the crosshairs of the left, but apparently there's been a rash of women who've been saying this dude is pro-life, but he forced me to have an abortion back in the day. So it looks like he's running against Warnock in Georgia. I've seen him speak a couple times. I cannot imagine he's going to win. There's a lot of conversation about Fetterman, which obviously, in my view, Fetterman's a separate category, although some people are talking about CTE relative to Herschel Walker. But anyway, having said that, if you are a veteran of the culture war, specifically in the pro-life division of the culture war, you know that the vast majority of these politicians are not actually pro-life in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of like, Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, and, like the few episodes where Wile E. Coyote catches Roadrunner, there's this sort of like existential crisis, because it's like, well, then what do I have to do now? And so it's been common knowledge among actual pro-lifers or actual abolitionists that a lot of these folks on the right have no intention of ending abortion, because they always want to be able to run on it. See, that's the irony of the whole abortion thing on both sides. You know, a lot of liberals were asking, how come Obama didn't codify it when he had a supermajority? The reason he didn't codify it is because if you do that, then you can no longer blackmail women that the Republicans are going to take away their right to choose if you codify it. Then you have to run on other topics. And conversely, on the other side, if you codified a ban on abortion, then that creates a situation where you can no longer run on threatening conservative Christians that the pro-choicers are going to, you know, run amok and you know, expand the 6-state total that has no gestational limits. So there you go. That's the situation. So I don't know this guy personally, and I don't care about him as a person. Obviously, as somebody who's dedicated their entire life to ending abortion, I want abortion ended. But let's see. How come this always comes out for pro-life conservatives? Yeah, I mean, you know, exactly. So here we go. Somebody sent this to me. This is TYT covering the Herschel Walker situation. Let's check it out.
Herschel Walker is facing an accusation.
Hold on, guys. That's a little bit low, I think. I think that's a little bit low. Let me turn up the movie volume here. Let's try again.
Pressured a woman to have an abortion and paid for it.
Okay, we're in good shape, I think. Okay, here we go. And then here's Applejack. Applejack can't stand TYT. He hates him. All right, guys, here we go. Herschel Walker. I love Applejack, bro. He's so funny. Okay, here we go. Herschel Walker, TYT, let's do it.
Herschel Walker is facing an accusation that he pressured a woman to have an abortion and paid for it. Don't check the date on this video. This is live. This is another woman who is saying that. Now, she's being...
Does anybody know what this guy's count is? Like what this guy's body count is? He says another. I haven't, you know, I just got this video. I haven't been able to do any research on it. But if somebody can tell me what the count is on how many times this has happened with this dude, that would be helpful. Mike is like, yeah, I'm laughing at you too. Everybody's against TYT. Listen, I understand the resentment towards TYT, okay? The thing is that I'm not, you know, I have limitations as far as what I know relative to the progressive cause, how progressives think and things of that nature. As I said, you know, Bernie Sanders was the first time I was like going to give anybody on the left, and I understand TYT's not left, even a consideration. And so TYT posts consistently, and you know, all that jazz. So that's why I watch it. But I agree. I understand all these people mad at TYT. Holy shit. All right, we continue.
Identified only as Jane Doe right now, being represented by obviously famed attorney Gloria Allred. And we have a number of different bits of audio of the woman talking about the experience that she had with Herschel Walker back in 1993. Here's the first bit.
Herschel Walker says he is against women having abortions, but he pressured me to have one.
She's doing a pretty good job of holding herself together as she begins to tell her story. But the actual experience, based on what she has to tell us, was pretty rough. Here's her describing it.
I went to a clinic in Dallas, but I simply couldn't go through with it. I left the clinic in tears. When I told Herschel what had happened, he was upset and said that he was going to go back with me to the clinic the next day for me to have the abortion. He then drove me to the clinic the following day and waited for hours in the parking lot until I came out. He then drove me to get medications and supplies as prescribed, and then drove me home. I was devastated because I felt that I had been pressured into having an abortion. After the abortion, I felt that Herschel began distancing himself from me. fled Dallas within days after the abortion and did not go back to even visit for the next 15 years because I was so traumatized by what Herschel had put me through.
Now, of course, at this point, these are allegations.
Well, they are allegations, and in America, you're innocent until proven guilty in a criminal trial, but this is not a criminal trial, and I will tell you that I believe her. And I believe her because, as I've said a million times, I've seen this a million times, which is one of the reasons why I am 150 million% against any sort of prison or financial, or in the case of Louisiana, death penalty for women who get abortions. Is every woman who goes into the abortion clinic pressured by a scumbag boyfriend that has all the power when she has none? Nope. But enough of them are. Enough of them are. And let me get this straight, pro-lifers. You want me to co-sign killing this woman, imprisoning this woman, fining this woman, when a man who at the time must have been a multimillionaire, had all the social capital on his side, drove her to the clinic after she decided she couldn't kill her child. Drove her, didn't even have the decency initially to go with her the first time. Only went with her the second time to make sure that the job was done. And then when the job was done, he had nothing else to do with her. And so she gets left holding the bag, and he gets to go off and be on NBC or whatever, running a football. But we want to harm these women. I don't know Herschel Walker. So I'm not saying I know definitively he's guilty, but I am telling you, I have heard the story a quadrillion times. I've told you guys our own experiences with the scumbag boyfriend who will shove the girl into the clinic. That literally happened on numerous occasions. Under the watchful eye of the supposed feminists in pink vests and off-duty police officers picking up a bonus shift. Nobody said anything for that woman except for us. A couple weeks ago, this same channel posted some study about how post-abortive women are happy and none of them regret their abortions. Bullshit. I operate on the ground in the inner city with disadvantaged women, etc., etc. A lot of them got stories like this, but there's no space socially for them to express that kind of pain, because the only thing that y'all have for them is shout your abortion. But on the other side, the only thing our side has for them is you're a murderer, you should be sent to prison. Holy shit, I got 2 daughters, man. You know, we were in our family Bible study a couple days ago. And, you know, we're talking about relationships and marriage and what to look for in a marriage and the rights, the duties of a husband, the rights of a wife, etc., etc., etc. But if you know this issue, and if you've ever been around this issue and looked underneath the hood, you will see that this is massively common. This is massively common. Did you hear her voice? This must have happened at minimum 20 years ago. I mean, I don't have enough research, but this must have been 20, 25 years ago. She said she never went back to that place because she used the term trauma, and to this moment, she's still crying about it. Now, the most cynical side of a person could say, well, she released this information 2 weeks before the midterms, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. I understand that. But that doesn't invalidate the fact that this woman is in extreme pain. She couldn't go through with it. She didn't tell us how far along she was. Unbelievable. We continue.
Possible for us to say exactly what happened in their relationship, but she is saying the reason she is now coming out with her story is because she saw Walker denying the first.
I know it's bad to suggest, but how many of these women saw a dollar sign if they had Walker's baby, a future millionaire athlete? Well, you know, the child support itself would make for a very comfortable life. And that's part of the game that gets played when you're a powerful man. There are trade-offs. Powerful men generally, because they have access to more resources, have access to more sexual opportunities. It's just an evolutionary fact for obvious reasons. And Republicans are supposed to be all about personal responsibility. But this is what I've been telling people all the time. When I'm out there on the street grinding with the crew, the people who head up those ministries are almost always female, post-abortive females. And the main players in the abortion, in the pro-life movement right now, on the atheist side, Albany Rose, Lila Rose, all of these organizations, Live Action, LifeSite News, Students for Life, they're all headed up by women. And the most vocal, when I was out there on the street, the most vocal set of people, the people that threatened to kill me, all types of craziness, all of them were men. I got in a conflict with a dude one time. It was a black dude. He's, you know, doing the whole shoving the girl into the clinic thing. And I said, bro, you gonna kill your child, bro? And then he tried to get all big with me because, you know, I said, oh, there's police over here. You're trying to get big. I know you're not a gangster. Because if you was a gangster, you would sack up and take care of your child. You're lucky these police are here. But when I say, ladies, I keep telling you, you see these dudes hardcore stumping for abortion, it's because they're Herschel Walker. 9.5 times out of 10, it's because they're Herschel Walker. Dudes don't want their child support docked every 2 weeks from their pay. They don't want that. So if you're a lady and you keep hearing all these dudes and you think that they're all pro-choice because they love you and they love women, you're out of your damn mind, shorty. They don't care about you. They never cared about you. They don't care about women. Please. Half these dudes are 90% of them are addicted to pornography, which is completely destructive to women, and it is completely focused on the degradation and the exploitation of women. But now all of a sudden they care so much about women, so they're pro-choice. Nah, they're pro-choice because they're pro-money, because they're good capitalists. That's why. And if you're pro-life, you know that's why. The people that tried to draft that death penalty thing, I know those people personally, and those people were also street workers personally. So I'm like, Jeff, you know that a lot of these dudes are shoving these women into the clinic. You know that sex traffickers, that the United States State Department explicitly stated that abortion is a necessary component of any good sex trafficking operation. You know that. So, but you want to kill these women?
Set of allegations related to an abortion. And she says, particularly, I saw him state that the woman's claims were not true because he never signed any cards using the letter H. I knew that was not true because he had often signed letters to me using H. And so she apparently knew that the woman's story was likely true in that case, but says she wants to stay anonymous, fearing reprisals. We'll talk a little bit about the anonymity, but look, there was sort of a concern floating around that, considering everything else about this campaign, it seemed unlikely that the first woman would be the only woman. We can't say for sure that this woman, again, just allegations, will be the only other woman, but it is now too.
I'm at a decision point right now.
As I said, I don't know Herschel Walker. I don't know this woman, but I believe her. And I believe that there is a lot more than two. And I'll say this. I'll wait till maybe they'll have his response here. So I will check that to be objectively, whatever. But man, this is Cattle Murder says, where are your stats from? What stats?
Where I have to decide whether I'm going to take this with the seriousness it deserves, or if I'm going to joke about it, because it's so absurd. The idea that anyone in America has not caught on to the fact that Republican politicians say that they're advocating for stuff that their constituents want while living up to that example, that is a ridiculous thing to think. Herschel Walker is such a walking parody of Republican hypocrisy, where they, at this point, you thought Roy Moore was the massive extent that they would go to. But they have Herschel Walker now, who can't even hold down a day job like Roy Moore. He goes out and he doesn't put it, he has no excuse for not putting a sentence together. And not only that, but he has obviously, according to what I've seen.
I'm missing, because like I said, I don't know much about Herschel Walker's political life. What does he mean by he can't put a sentence together? Is this one of these like people I disagree with are dumb, or does he have an actual condition like you know who? I'm not talking about Biden. I'm talking about the dude from Pennsylvania. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to open up floodgates to mocking somebody that has an actual diagnosable issue. We continue.
And the conclusion I personally myself have drawn, he has driven women to go get abortions and then later turned around and said, I am going to outlaw abortions altogether. Well, I say put your money where your mouth is, walk the walker, and volunteer to go to jail, because that is what your constituents want. They see it as murder. You then, by their definition, are a murderer. You should be at the mercy of the people in your state, according to what your plan is for the future of America. And you should go to jail and potentially be put to death because you have committed murder multiple times. By your people's definition, Herschel Walker, you're a serial killer.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I'm fine with people prosecuting dudes like Herschel Walker. I'm fine with the courts prosecuting the doctor who killed that woman's baby. I'm not fine with her getting prosecuted though, because she doesn't have any social capital in the situation. I look at my penology relative to abortion is probably most analogous with the Nordic model relative to sex trafficking. In the Nordic model, you go after the supplier or the pimp and the John, and then you rehab the woman. I love that. If you're a scummy type of person who wants to take advantage of a woman in an exigent circumstance and essentially financially rape her, good. I hope they throw away the key on your despicable ass. And if you're the type of person that's gonna put a girl in that situation, you should also go to prison. But we're not gonna penalize women for surviving in a world and a society that we created. Women go into sex work for the same reasons they kill their children mostly, which is economic. And trust me, under every single sex trafficked woman and many abortions is a scummy man who's only worried about his sexual appetites and doesn't give a fuck about the people that they harm. Now, he's saying this is murder, this is killing according to your people. I think that these guys got to figure out their messaging. But this is clear and blatant hypocrisy. If it is true, I'm telling you guys, I personally believe it's true, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. We continue.
Well, by his people's definition, and also by the definition that he at least wants his base to believe that he holds. Remember, he doesn't believe that there should be any exceptions. Now, I know that like people are throwing that around against literally every candidate, and I get it. Some of the candidates who say they support exceptions would vote in favor.
Would you be okay with prosecuting a woman who performs an abortion on herself? No. A woman who performs an abortion on herself needs immediate medical attention and mental health counseling. So no, I don't believe in that. We continue.
Of bills that didn't have exceptions, but he doesn't support any exceptions. Like, that is what he says. And there's no exception for incest, no exception for rape, obviously no exception for I'm a football player, I don't really feel like it. I think that
there's no exceptions for incest, there's no exceptions for rape. Again, the question that I ask all the time is, do we want to pass legislation that states that we can kill children for the crimes of their parents? If you believe at a federal level that we should codify a law that says that we should be able to penalize up to and including the death penalty children for the crimes of their parents, then go ahead and present that law and have the American people vote on it. Because I remind you, dear listener, in cases of rape and incest, that's what's going on. We're killing the child for the crimes of their parents. And I don't think that that's moral, and I don't think that you can make a you can skirt the 14th Amendment. We continue.
That probably wouldn't be one of the exceptions as well. And this isn't like, you're judging him based on what he says, what his side says. We don't believe that he necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, maybe ethically, based on what she's saying, it appears to have gone just beyond him expressing.
Then I heard these accusations are between 13 and 30 years old. Does that change anything? You're friends with choicers turned lifers. I agree, Ian. That's why I said it depends on how he responds to these accusations in this situation. If he's completely dismissive of it, that's one thing. If he says, you know, like for example, one of my heroes is John Newton. John Newton was a white slave owner. You know the song Amazing Grace? He wrote that. He was a white slave owner. And not only was he a slave owner, he was a slave trader. He'd be on the ships. And he hit a crisis point when he realized that what he was doing was wrong. And then he turned around and campaigned for the complete abolition of slavery. And he and William Wilberforce from over in England would work together, etc., etc. So people can change. Like, I personally know, like I tell you guys, every time I talk about this or every time I have a debate with a pro-choicer, I get emails, I get text messages, and people start saying, holy shit, I really have to rethink this. So I am fine with giving room to people to change relative to Herschel Walker, so long as you acknowledge that we all did some fucked up shit in the past. I'm not above this stuff. I don't know what I would have done if I've had a few pregnancy scares when I was in high school in the Bronx, New York. I was a 16-year-old kid and I was crazy. I was unemployable. And, you know, I was not the type of person, you know, I was carrying around shit in my book bag, all types of, like, I was not ready to have a child. So if we got pregnant, I don't know what I would have done. I don't think that so this is not about judging people. I would have been wrong if I did that. This is not about judging people, though. This is what happens in the real world on the ground. Women do get coerced in the millions. We've had 61 million abortions. How many of those abortions were coerced? And when I say coercion, that takes on a lot of forms. For example, black women, as you know, are killing their children at ridiculous rates relative to abortion. We talk about more black babies aborted than born, but here's the question. What are the societal and systemic boxes that these black women get put in that make it so that they make that decision more than anybody else? That's a form of coercion. This is a unintended, but I believe intended byproduct of the redlining, the war on drugs, and the crime bill that took black men out of the home and impoverished white women and made them dependent on their government. So when you have a group of people that have been treated like that, that is a form of coercion. When you have a father who says to my friend A, she was 3.5 months pregnant, 4 months pregnant, feeling the kicks, all that beautiful stuff, looking at names. Her scumboy boyfriend breaks up with her. So she goes to her dad. Hey, can I move in, Dad? Dad says, listen, sweetheart, you got 2 kids already. I'm on state aid and you can't keep a job. So you can come if you take care of that problem. But if you can't, I'm sorry. So now she's looking at the prospect of wintering in Maine in her car with her 2 other babies and a newborn. Okay, well, that's coercion. And then you've got situations like Herschel Walker and sex traffickers. Those are all coercive.
Interest in not having a child. He seems to have been very much pressuring her. That maybe goes beyond what most people would be comfortable with. But if he was rape, obviously no exception for, I'm a football player, I don't really feel like it. I think that probably wouldn't be one of the exceptions as well. And this isn't like, you're judging him based on what he says, what his side says. We don't believe that he necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, maybe ethically, based on what she's saying, it appears to have gone just beyond him expressing an interest in not having a child. He seems to have been very much pressuring her. That maybe goes beyond. There's no exception.
You're a serial killer.
Yep. Well, by his people's definition, and also by the definition that he at least wants his base to believe that he holds. Remember, he doesn't believe that there should be any exceptions. Now, I know that like people are throwing that around against literally every candidate, and I get it. Some of the candidates who say they support exceptions would vote in favor of bills that didn't have exceptions, but he doesn't support any exceptions. Like that is what he says. And there's no exception for incest, no exception for rape, obviously no exception for, I'm a football player, I don't really feel like it. I think that probably wouldn't be one of the exceptions as well. And this isn't like, you're judging him based on what he says, what his side says. We don't believe that he necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, maybe ethically, based on what she's saying, it appears to have gone just beyond him expressing an interest in not having a child.
There it is. Did you catch that? Hey, we don't believe he did anything ethically wrong. Maybe he went a little overboard in trying to convince her of that. Exactly. Now, I wonder why that would be, John. Why would you not have a problem with a dude bringing his girlfriend or his jump off or whatever you want to call it back to the clinic after she expressed she didn't want to kill her child? Now, why, oh why would you say, well, I don't think that's necessarily ethically a bad thing? How come? It's because a lot of these dudes, ladies, will do this and have done this. I keep trying to explain to you guys, these men do not give a fuck about women. This dude just heard the trauma in this woman's voice. This woman said she couldn't go back there for 15 years because she used the word trauma and she was still emotional when she recounted the situation. And these two believe her mostly. But what does he say? Well, I don't really think there's necessarily anything ethically wrong with what he did. Exactly. This is a mask off moment. And ladies, listen to these people. Oh, nothing necessarily ethically wrong. How many girls have you driven to the clinic on day 2, Mr. Ideroller, whatever your name is? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How many times do I have to tell you people? This is not about choice. These dudes don't give a fuck about women and choice and feminism. This is about, I need to be able to have as much sex as I want, and I don't need to man up and take responsibility for my seed. And if you decide you want to kill our child, great. And if you have second thoughts because you can't do it and your maternal instinct is kicking in, I will then bring you back to the clinic and fucking sit in that car and make sure the deed is done. Then I will get you the meds, and then me and you are done. And Ideroller hears that and he goes, well, there's nothing necessarily wrong ethically about what this guy did. Thank you. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. Holy shit, these people are evil.
Very much pressuring her. That maybe goes beyond what most people would be comfortable with. But if he was just honest about all of this and would give leeway to other people that he gave to himself, then we wouldn't have any problem with this. This wouldn't be a scandal for him, and we could instead focus.
See? I wouldn't have a problem with what you did, bro. I don't have a problem with you traumatizing that woman. But the thing is that you got to do it. So I want the right to be able to do that. That's his problem. I want you girls to understand this. That's his problem. His problem with Herschel Walker is not that he coerced that girl into killing her child. His problem with Herschel Walker is that he wants to still be able to do that. Well, duh, yeah, he's hypocritical. But that's not all that he's saying. What he's saying is, I don't necessarily see a problem with what you did to that girl. I just want to make sure that I am able to continue to do that. Holy shit.
On the 100 other things that make him wholly unqualified for this position. But this is the life that he says, like there's the life he says you should lead, and then there's the life that he has actually led, and he can talk.
That's every politician on the planet. John, you were saying that Trump was the worst person in the world because he was sexist, misogynistic, and racist, and yet you voted for Joe Biden, and you and your company participated in the erasure of Tara Reid because it didn't fit your political instincts. Your boss, your ustad, Cenk Uygur, you guys do a story on when all that Starbucks, all that union shit was happening, the Amazon shit was happening, you guys were doing stories. Your boss crushed a union that TYT was trying to create, that the workers were trying to create. So this is hilarious to me, the hypocrisy of the hypocrites calling out the hypocrites on the other side. This is politics. They're all hypocrites, John. And why you are pretending that you have a problem with hypocrisy is beyond me. Here's Ian. I remember Tara Reid. Who else? Correct.
Being bathed in the blood of Jesus Christ, I feel like it's not up to you at the end of the day whether you've redeemed yourself. I don't think that's how Christianity is supposed to work. That you just say you're good now.
It's so bad. I mean,
well, the way Christianity works is that, and people ask me this all the time. They said, why? I just saw, I don't know if it was a Christopher Hitchens, one of the big four atheist people. He said, why can't God just forgive people? Why does he have to have Jesus brutalized on the cross? Because we do bullshit like this to women. That's why. So Herschel Walker may very well be good with God. I don't know his heart, but that's the reason Jesus had to die a bloody death. Because men kill their children and destroy the women who carry their seed. And so for God to just willy-nilly forgive Herschel Walker degrades the value of the woman he destroyed and the child he destroyed. If God says, Herschel, I'll forgive you, but you need to look at a bloody and brutalized Jesus and see that you participated in this. That's how it works. We continue.
The golden rule to make it particularly Jesus-y is treat others the way you would want to be treated. Come to our side, we do that.
No, you don't. You dehumanize the occupants of the womb. That's what your side does. Let me remind you, dear listener, here is the Encyclopedia Britannica's definition of what an embryo is. The early developmental stage of an animal while it's in the egg or within the uterus of its mother. In humans, the term is applied to the unborn child until the end of the 7th week following conception. From the 8th week, the unborn child is called a fetus. You guys are not good to babies. Sir, I don't know who you are, but you guys do not apply the golden rule to babies. I promise you, if I were to say to you, hey man, whoever you are, would you be cool with me ripping off your arms, your legs, eviscerating your stomach, and crushing your skull till your brain matter oozes out onto the floor? Would you want that to happen to you? He'd probably say no, but yet this is what he advocates to happen to children. So no, your side doesn't do that. If all of this is true, Herschel Walker is a raging hypocrite, but you are just a liar. We continue.
Got cookies. Like you come over, you get to be just a garden variety crappy dude where you knock a girl up, you say you love her, you say, I think for both of us, I'll stay with you, but we gotta get an abortion. Then you pay for her abortion and then you leave her. You get to be precisely that horrible. Under the law, you're fine. Because we know that it's not just a standard for me and a different standard for everyone else.
Are you guys hearing this stuff? I mean, these dudes are explicitly saying, come to our side. where we will perpetuate this destruction of the female psyche. I hope you guys are seeing this. Ladies, I hope you're seeing this. You got daughters. A lot of you women have already been through this. You got daughters. You want your daughters in this kind of America? How do you protect women from this when you've legalized this out in broad daylight? Did you hear what this man just said? Come to our side and we will legally protect you doing this. How are women protected? This is not a pro-woman movement, guys. This is a capitalist, male, consumer-oriented industry. It has nothing to do with taking care of women. Nothing. And these fools out here saying the quiet part out loud because they're so twisted in their, you know, these dudes have probably done this already. Wow.
Worse, what Herschel Walker's doing is decidedly elitist and anti-populist. He has put himself
right. So Allahu Akbar. Their problem is not that he did this to this woman and his own child. Their problem is that, hey, only the elites get to do it. I want to be able to do it too. I want to be able to screw these women. I want to be able to screw as many women as I want and not have to pay child support. I want to be able to pressure that girl into killing my child.
Because he can run good and is pals with Donald Trump, now he is in the inner circle of people who are allowed to do it. Mm-hmm. And what's frustrating is that, but not only that, but the people who are willing to give him a pass so that they can make other people responsible for taking the same actions that their leader that they want to vote for has taken.
Yeah, and along the way.
Yeah. Here's I Look at News. They missed the point. The woman wanted protection to keep her child. Correct. I Look at News. Correct. There was nobody to protect that girl. And there's nobody to protect my friend. And there's nobody to protect the sex trafficked girls that I've talked to about this, who named their children on the way to the abortion clinic because the pimp knew that her being pregnant was bad for business. There's nobody to protect those girls from those monsters. And I showed you guys the undercover video where they had an underage sex trafficking victim. And the Planned Parenthood operative explained to her how to get an abortion without parental notification. And then on top of that, the Planned Parenthood operative told her that she should just walk the streets for the first 2 minutes. For the first 2 weeks, get the guys ginned up and pass it off to the other girls because she needs a couple weeks to recover after the abortion. So who's advocating for those women? Me? Oh man, this shit is intolerable sometimes, I gotta tell you.
You're totally right about being so elitist. We can't say to what extent it's honestly elitist or he's completely lying about this just because.
Here's Eric T. I don't understand why the debate is always about these extreme cases where there's always an evil man behind the poor defenseless woman. 80% of all abortions are done by women who are in stable, loving relationships, stable financial situations, and good health with good prospect. Where the fuck did you get that from, man? Who told you that? The Guttmacher Institute says the number one reason for abortions are financial situations. So who told you that these women are in good financial health when they're killing their children? Who told you that? Get us these stats that these women are in stable relationships with good financial health. I'm sorry, but I cannot stand when people talk about this subject and they have no facts. And one of the things that pro-choicers do when you mask off the heinous nature of this practice, they always try to say it's an extreme case. Like for example, I just described a dilation and carotid abortion where you're talking about tearing off arms, legs, torso, crushing the skull. I had some girl on Twitter, I could show you guys the thread, where she said, she literally retweeted me and say, pro-lifers always lie. So then I posted the actual testimony of Anthony Lebatano, the guy who did this hundreds of times. And then what she said underneath that was, well, those are the most rare cases of abortion. So then I had to go to the Guttmacher Institute and pen the Guttmacher Institute saying that that is a extremely common form of abortion. This practice only survives based on lies and misinformation. End of story. That is not what Herschel Walker did to that girl, is not a rare case. And that's why these two guys are not even saying this is a rare case. I can't believe this horrible thing happened. This guy said, hey, I'm down with that. And the other guy said, well, then join our team and he wants to democratize abortion coercion. That was their problem.
Wants to be in the inner circle? To me, it doesn't really matter which it is. I would think that if you were a devoted Christian, you'd care about the difference between those two things. I have no idea if he actually thinks that.
Responsible for taking the same actions that their leader that they want to vote for has taken.
Yeah. And along the way, you're totally right about being so elitist. We can't say to what extent it's honestly elitist or he's completely lying about this just because he wants to be in the inner circle. To me, it doesn't really matter which it is. I would think that if you were a devoted Christian, you'd care about the difference between those two things. I have no idea if he actually thinks that abortion is wrong now. Maybe he changed his mind after the multiple abortions he pressured women to have. I don't know, maybe he was hit in the head enough times that eventually the switch flipped for that. I don't know. But I do know he's a massive hypocrite. Even if it turned out somehow that this woman was lying, and I'm going to guess that Gloria Allred probably looked into it a little bit. They have bits of evidence, by the way. You can see, we're not gonna show you the videos for literally everything, but they have voicemails supposedly from Herschel Walker. You can see a shot of Gloria Allred playing that, and it certainly sounds like him. They have a photo of Herschel Walker in a bed in Jane Doe's hotel room, which again, by itself doesn't necessarily prove that he pressured her to have an abortion. This could have been taken from any number of different women he probably doesn't remember, but they do appear to, as with the first woman, have some documentation. That said, why don't we turn now to the response? Only seems fair. So we're gonna jump ahead actually to video 4. Whenever you're ready, let's go to that.
I'm gonna just say right now, guys, I'm done with this foolishness. I've already told people this is a lie, and I'm not gonna entertain to continue to carry a lie along. And I also want to let you know I didn't kill JFK either. And right now they sent him one after he got crushed at that debate. And now the Democrats are doing say whatever they can to win this seat. But I want them to know they don't know Herschel Walker. They don't know that I'm from Wrightsville, Georgia, and I'm gonna win this seat.
Right there, Herschel.
Obviously, he's going to deny it. The fact of the matter is, at minimum, they've got pictures of you with this woman. So at minimum, we can say you had some sort of sexual relationship with this woman, or some kind of relationship where you were calling her and they've got pictures of you in her bed. This woman sounds traumatized and wounded. Even if you were innocent, this dismissive, smiley, I'm not feeling it. And it doesn't communicate to me that you're innocent of these charges, bruh. But this is a state, I want you guys to understand this. This is how women are treated in this country. You got these scumbags saying that, hey, all of us should be able to coerce women into abortion so we can protect our child support. And then on the other hand, you have this woman in serious pain and he's just smiling and completely dismissing her like nothing happened. He's gonna deny it, fine. He can deny it, he gets to do that. He has his time in court, whatever, innocent until proven guilty, whatever. What I'm saying is the affect man is inappropriate. It's inappropriate to be that dismissive and lackadaisical about something that is obviously extremely sensitive and painful to this woman who you obviously had a sexual relationship with. Now look, I don't have a problem. I brought up John Newton, former slave owner, former slaver, okay? I don't have a problem with somebody saying I had a horrible past. Jesus found me, I repented, now I've changed. Like I said, the leader of our group when we were out there, she had been coerced into 6 abortions by her pimp. And she still took some culpability for it. She said, I killed my children. I said, sweetie, you were sex trafficked. Okay, fine. There's a much different attitude of a person who is repentant over these things than this. This is just plain, I can do what I want, and I'm powerful, and I've got powerful friends, etc., etc. And to Tamara's point, I agree. We don't know. None of us can actually know. What I'm saying, Tamara, is he obviously had a relationship with this woman, and his dismissive affect relative to this discussion, especially in the context of the fact that his own child said that he was a horrible and absentee father. That has to be addressed when you look at how much of a whore this guy was in his heyday. And then you look at the fact that he obviously doesn't feel the need to care for his kids. That indicates the kind of profile of a man who would do such a thing. But you're right. I can't prove it definitively that he did that. What I'm saying is what I just saw was ugly. If I was falsely accused of something like that, I would still find a way to honor that woman. I'd find, especially if I had some sort of relationship with her. But he just completely dismissed her and said, I'm going to win the seat. Okay, this is politics. It's the way that it is, okay? It's the way that it is, I guess. We continue.
Walker has the confidence of a man who doesn't necessarily know much, but he knows who he's trying to appeal to. And he knows how little they actually care about the things they purport to care
Correct.
the most about.
Correct. Those people don't care about that woman. Them right-wingers don't care about that lady. Just like you don't care about this woman.
This is now 2 women that say that he pressured them to have an abortion, which in their eyes is murder. They didn't care about the first. They didn't care about the documentation, the check, and the letter, and all of that.
Is there an objective definition to murder in John's mind? Is there an objective definition of murder, or do we all get to just make it up as we go along? It's a serious question. Like, I'm talking to somebody and they're like, well, I don't consider a fetus human. Like I've heard Jenk and Anna say, I don't consider a fetus human. Yeah, but what does it matter what you consider it? Is there an objective definition of what a fetus is? Yeah, an unborn human baby. Who cares if you don't think that do we all get to make stuff up as we go along? And it doesn't seem to me that he understands the ramification of what that means. There are ramifications to this sort of extreme relativism. What do you mean they consider it murder? What do you call killing a baby?
The fact that this Jane Doe is anonymous makes it very easy for them to brush away the entire thing. But I got news for you. I'll spoil the second season. Were she to reveal herself, and were she to have a video that she shot on mini DV of their whole trip to the abortion clinic, if he were to have sat in the viewing gallery for it, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. That's why
and neither do you. I'm glad that Shorty is anonymous, because you're absolutely right. Them right wingers would come after her with a vengeance, and you wouldn't stand up for her because you don't think he did anything wrong, John. So I'm glad she's staying anonymous, because nobody would help her.
didn't have to really defend himself. He called it foolishness, I think he said. He didn't even pronounce the word right. He brushed it aside. It's condescending. He's gonna win. He's Herschel Walker. That's it. Why would you say more when no one who's gonna be voting for you demands it?
It's so ridiculous. Speaking of the viewing gallery, like, where are they doing that statement? Where were they shooting that? You know what they do? This is even bigger of an insult than him going up there and saying, like, they're not gonna send me to jail for being a murderer. He's also doing it in front of a freeway. Where are you? You're doing it intentionally so you have background noise so that people won't be able to use that video. Where even are you? Herschel Walker for Senate is at the bottom of an embankment. It's so ridiculous. And on the other end of it, you have a reverend, a well-respected guy.
I mean, I wouldn't have made a big point of it, but I mean, it does show you how little he cares about this situation.
Who who already is doing the job great, Raphael Warnock, and on the other end of it, you've got Herschel.
Well, you've got Raphael Warnock, who is pro-choice, which means he's pro killing babies, and he should know better because the scripture says that God constructs babies in the womb. Scripture says that babies at times get converted in the womb. The scripture said that when a child is born, God brings them forth from their mother's womb. He plays the role of midwife at a spiritual level. So if you've got somebody who has a Rev in front of his name, but he's supporting the killing of image bearers of God, I don't know what Bible the Rev is reading, but I read in Ezekiel where the Israelites were sacrificing their children to Molech for financial reasons, by the way. They were sacrificing their children to Molech, and God says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fuck up your entire country for about 70 years. Yeah, I'm going to send these Babylonians in, and they're going to beat the hell out of y'all. Because he said, I never commanded you to do that to my children. He said, you passed my children through the fire. So I don't know what Bible this Reverend Warnock is reading, but hell no, he's not doing a good job. And again, you and your buddy just said there was nothing really ethically wrong with what Herschel Walker did to that woman. Can you imagine Jesus doing that to a woman? This girl's knocked up. She wants to keep the baby that God gave her. And then Jesus shows up and says, nah, shorty, that ain't happening. Now I'm going to go to the clinic and intimidate you and sit in that car until the job is done. And then I'm going to give you some pills and then send you on your merry way. You just said, come to our side. You can do that legally. That's a reverend co-signing that kind of treatment of women, creating the image and likeness of God. That's how he believes we should treat the pinnacles of creation.
Walker, who's sitting there like trying to run faster than the allegations can mount.
Yep.
And I hope to God that he cannot run faster than them.
Yeah.
I hope to God that you get some respect for women and some compassion and empathy for women and stop worrying about how child support is going to affect your financial situation. Aren't y'all supposed to be socialists over there at TYT?
Yeah, and maybe wait out, like, will more stuff come out? We've got, what, 2 weeks at this point? Is there potentially time? Maybe in the same way that his condescending dismissal of the first allegations led to the second woman coming out. I don't know, maybe there's a third woman and a fourth woman that are watching him near that embankment looking like his car flew off the road and they decided, yeah, we'll use this. Maybe they're paying attention, I don't know. But what I do know is that it won't really matter. I say too often, I oversimplify things and say that it doesn't matter to literally anyone. The polling that came out in the wake of the allegations, it does seem to have hurt him by like literally 1.5 points maybe. But I do have to imagine that whatever influence him being shown to be an utter absolute hypocrite on the topic that is most important to these people, it's gonna be mostly encapsulated in the first one. A second one or a third one, or I don't know, maybe he's a Trump or a Bill Cosby and there's 40 hanging out there. I don't think that each one is gonna give you a point. We're just at a point in American politics where just nobody cares. Like think about the conservatives that are looking at this. Maybe they even think, yeah, he is hypocritical on this, but they also think that Raphael Warnock is a tool of Satan.
I agree. He's absolutely a tool of Satan. But this conversation right here indicates why I keep telling everybody that progressives aren't going to win anything until probably the next decade. Because here's the deal. I don't care if Herschel Walker is a raging hypocrite. That's between him and Allah. Here's what I do care about. How is he going to vote? Is he going to vote to protect human babies, or is he going to vote to harm human babies? I don't care what his motives are. If he votes correctly, then good. This is the difference between why conservatives get their way and why progressives do not. We just saw poor Brianna, I'll probably do a show, Brianna Joy Gray. I just saw her radar where she said the Democratic Party is dead. She just got disillusioned by Bernie Sanders. She was holding on to Bernie the way I was holding on to AOC before last week. And this is a reason why. because progressives believe that not only policy is tantamount, but almost the idealism of the candidate themselves is almost as important, if not more important, than the policy you want pushed, which is a good way to lose, which is why they always lose, which is why they couldn't figure out the moment when Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders. These silly progressives, led by AOC, by the way, pushed Bernie to repudiate that because they were not thinking, all I care about is policy. All we care about is Medicare for all. I don't care if Joe Rogan was a grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. I don't care. He's got the influence of literally millions of people, many of whom are left-leaning right-wingers and independents. Do you know what kind of windfall we could have had in 2020 if you could have exploited that correctly? But progressives are so young and stupid that we made Bernie Sanders repudiate the endorsement because you were worried about the character of Joe Rogan. Dumb. There's a difference between the policy a person votes for and who the person is. Like, let me ask you a question. I'm sure now these guys would say that they're against what happened to my people, black people, slavery, right? If you had a great high integrity slave owner who said, I am going to vote to keep slavery current. And then you had a scummy, nasty, horrible, hypocritical, evil guy that says, for my own purposes and for my own political power and to expand my wallet, I'm going to vote against slavery because everybody in my circle is against slavery and that's going to get me power and money. Who would you vote for? I would vote for the guy who's against slavery. Oh, by the way, his name was Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if you've read anything about Mr. Lincoln, dear listener, but he was an avowed racist. He explicitly said, I understand that there's a difference, an ontological, natural difference between the black man and the white man. That was him alluding to scientific racism. You know, when they were saying that Negroes weren't really human. They had like a separate category for us, like we were human-ish, but not as human as white people, just like a lot of people today. They're like, yeah, babies are human-ish, but they're a different category. They don't get rights. Abraham Lincoln would have got banned from Twitter. Well, not anymore. But this is something that progressives, you have to understand. And I got to say that I'm going to completely scorch the earth here. This is what happens when you have a movement led by white men. Because you've been told you can have it all your whole life. And you were never taught to compromise. You were never taught to jujitsu. You were never taught to lead from the bottom. You were never taught to use this. So these people believe they should have everything they want. Not only should I have a political person who votes the way I want, but I also want him to have the same sort of ideology that I have and expressions that I have. And if you operate that way, you're going to lose. And this is a reason why established Democrats keep kicking the shit out of you. And this is a reason why Republicans and conservatives keep kicking the shit out of you. The moral character of the person who's going for the nomination is important insofar as it can measure what they're going to vote for. That's the only reason the person's moral character is in play. Meaning, Obama said that Roe v. Wade was essential to him. And then when he got on, he said it wasn't really a priority. So from that perspective, you could say the person's moral character is important relative to voting. But all this other shit, the Twitter shit, the woke shit, if he says something, you know, if Joe Rogan endorses your candidate, you would be a dummy. You would be a dummy not to take it. But here we are. We continue.
I mean, yes, they've been told that directly. Marjorie Greene says it frequently. So why would they support him? They've been convinced that the Democrats are literal Satanists.
Holy shit. In Australia, they categorized Aborigines as flora and fauna. Holy shit. Do me a favor. I look at news, get me a link for that, bro. Wow. Jesus.
Yes. So Raphael Warnock is an obvious hypocritical failed Christian, but that probably seems better than the Satanist, I guess.
I don't think any.
Yeah, I'll vote for a pro-life Satanist before I vote for that Warnock guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Additional people care. That's how I would qualify it.
That's depressing.
This is Georgia. This is Georgia where it took Donald Trump being the worst president in many, many years. Like the baseline for a Georgia Senate race should.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with y'all. I don't really know how Donald Trump lost in Georgia to Joe Biden. I mean, well, I do know. I credit that to Stacey Abrams, who in my view, was a much better choice for vice president. But Stacey Abrams hadn't proved to the white power establishment that she was completely loyal to them, like Kamala Harris did, where Kamala Harris treated her prisoners as a slave labor force and literally invented new laws to go after black people with. So Kamala had been signaling for decades that what side she was on and what she was about, and so she became the vice president. But how Trump lost in Georgia, look, I believe he lost in Georgia fair and square, but I understand the conspiracy theorists scratching their heads over that one. Holy shit. Ugh.
Be like 60-40. And the fact that the Democrat is slightly ahead of a Republican.
Jesus God almighty. You could legally hunt Aboriginals in Australia until the 70s. Guys, VinandSori@gmail.com. I need you to send me that information. Man. It is unbelievable to me that we keep doing this to each other and still haven't figured it out. Dear listener, if it is a Homo sapien, they're equal to you in value. Full stop. End of story. That's it. Flora and fauna. Jeez.
Means that a lot of people who do care have done one of two things. A, said, I'm going to be with the man of God, in my opinion. The guy with the reverend in front of his name, even if he's.
No, nobody who follows Jesus supports killing the most vulnerable, defenseless people in our society. The man of God.
A D, and this is Georgia. I voted for Democrats as recently as 2001, to before the realignment ended, and finally went to the Republican way. I think that's the main one. Or they've said, I'm just going to stay home. I'm sitting this one out. Maybe. And the Alabamians did it with Roy Moore. They're just like, I'm going to sit out. This guy's too much. But I would just say the marginal effect of this kind of thing, when it's been proven that he is just not worthy of being a senator, is not as huge, especially with the second one over the first one. And the 1 point is a big thing, because already Republican voters are used to looking at hypocritical leaders and saying, at least I know, and this is an art that the Democrats need to learn, is that even if you're a hypocrite on something, you're at least going to deliver them the thing that they want from a policy perspective.
Correct. So when you dummies were going after Joe, I shouldn't have said that. Sucked for a lot. I'm sorry. But when you guys are going after Joe Rogan, when he endorsed Bernie, he refused to put Trump on his show. The only candidate in 2020 that he had on his show was Bernie Sanders. And after Bernie Sanders came on the show, he endorsed Bernie. Bernie was able to make a strong, brilliant, and you know the way that Bernie talks about it in this like matter-of-fact way, which is genius. When he's in an interview, he says, a matter of fact, like, listen, you want the money to go to millionaires or the billionaires? What we could do is 1% tax on Wall Street speculation. We can fund it that way and it wouldn't hit your pocket, okay? And people could get health care. We can take care of people's eyes. We can take care of people's teeth. I think most Americans would support that. Joe Rogan goes, holy shit, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, we can make that shit happen. Oh my God, we can charge Wall Street speculation. We can get the money from Wall Street speculation. We don't necessarily have to hike up taxes into this exponential stratosphere. He made it sound so rational, and not only rational, but attainable. And Rogan was like, damn. And it was after that he endorsed him. And you guys... Now, I still think he would have lost because Bernie doesn't have the... he didn't have the stones to go on the attack on Biden, and Bernie went along with the Russiagate nonsense. So I don't think he would have won anyway. And obviously, you had the dark overlord in every sense, Barack Obama in the background, who literally said, "I am not going to let Bernie win." How does that happen? I thought all these people were talking about, they were upset about Russian troll farms because they were worried about democracy. And here's the former president who had 2 terms saying he's not going to allow somebody else to be president. But you know, let's continue to idealize everybody and then go into a circular firing squad, which in this case I'm happy for. Actually, I'm happy because the Democratic apparatus is so the progressive apparatus is so childish that they can't see the difference between a person being a hypocrite and getting a policy passed. We continue.
Which in this case is making abortion illegal.
Sure. Yeah. De facto illegal for people who aren't as rich as Herschel Walker.
I forget who said it. They were like, I don't care what he said. I want the Senate. I don't know if that's Dana.
Correct. Because that's how politics works. Correct. Like, you don't get extra votes in the Senate or extra representation if they follow, if they reflect your ideals in their personal life. Like, you don't get an extra vote there. The Republicans, especially people on my team, we're just doing the math. If we get the House and the Senate and we get Trump, we could easily get a legit codification of protecting life and applying the 14th Amendment the way it should be applied. So that's the thought process.
Dana Loesch,
Yeah, she really doesn't care. Which is definitely how religious values should work. You should be able to just dispense them, like, for short-term political gain.
Jesus.
No, we are called to advocate for the poor and the widow. So if I have a candidate like Bernie Sanders, for example, that is ruthless relative to abortion, Vermont is one of those states that doesn't have gestational limits. So you're talking about slicing and dicing little babies at the 6th, 7th, 8th month. But he supports Medicare for all. I was going to vote for him because I believe that we can conquer the abortion scourge state by state. I never even believed that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe. They haven't overturned Doe v. Bolton, which is forced sterilization, but we don't practice forced sterilization in America. So my point was, I was really willing and ready to vote for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. Why? Because his policy relative to Medicare for all is in line with the scripture. His other issues and what he says out of his mouth, how he obviously hates Christians and Christianity. We saw that the way he interrogated that guy and had a religious test for him because the guy dared to be an evangelical Christian. So I know that Bernie hates Christians. I don't care. Is he going to pass Medicare for all? Good. I don't need Bernie Sanders to like me or my folks. This is a principle you guys have to understand. Same thing, black people. I don't need Donald Trump to like me or my folks. I need policies changed. That's what I need.
Jesus died for their sins. It is a martyrdom in the service of a larger agenda religion. So what's 2 Herschel Walker babies to them?
I guess that's true.
Whoa! What's 2 Herschel Walker? What? Hold on. What's 2? I gotta check this again.
How religious values should work. You should be able to just dispense them, like, for short-term political gain. Power gain.
Jesus died for their sins. It is a martyrdom in the service of a larger agenda religion. So what's 2 Herschel Walker babies to them?
Okay. Did you catch what this man just said? 2 Herschel Walker babies. Well, Herschel Walker aborted both of those children in utero. I thought there were no babies being killed in abortion. Isn't that what TYT kept saying? Isn't that what y'all keep saying, that there are no babies dying in abortion? You keep saying that a fetus isn't a baby, but now all of a sudden it's a guy you don't like So now you're going to use the term that we all know is true. Baby. Wow. See, we caught the homie. We caught the homie in an unguarded moment. We caught the homie in an unguarded moment. So these two know. And notice, John didn't say, whoa, 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 whoa. We're not killing babies here. This is fetuses we're killing. He didn't say that. He said, yeah, that's true. Oh, so you know we're killing babies in abortion. So let's synthesize this, dear listener. This man just said that Herschel Walker killed at least 2 babies via abortion. That's what he said. But then he also said, come to our side, because if you come to our side, we'll democratize this for everybody, not just the elites. So what he just told us was that he knows this woman was coerced and traumatized. That's the word that she used. And he's saying all of us should be able to do that, not just rich athletes. And then he just said he knows that we're killing babies in abortion. And instead of saying, holy shit, this is horrific, he's saying all of us should be able to do that, Herschel, not just rich people. You just heard it. I'm not twisting this guy's, I'm not twisting his words. That's what the man just said. He said 2 Herschel Walker babies. Thank you. Because all of us have been playing around with this fiction like all of us don't know what the subjects of abortion are, what the targets of abortion are. Thank you so much, my brother. Here we go. Here, let me back up TYT for you guys in case any of you guys don't understand. Here's a fetus, an unborn offspring of a mammal, in particular an unborn human baby more than 8 weeks after conception. That's Oxford. And here we go. Here's the Mayo Clinic. I was talking to a guy on Twitter. He said, I don't take dictionaries. I would rather take, medical journals. Okay, excellent. Here's the Mayo Clinic. 7 weeks into your pregnancy or 5 weeks after conception, your baby's brain and face are growing. Week 8, baby's nose forms, etc., etc. So I just posted that to back up my brother. Well, what about at the embryonic stage? What if I get a 6-week abortion? Because if I get abortion at 6 weeks, it's not a fetus, and a fetus is a baby, so let's kill it at the embryonic stage. Nope. The early developmental stage of an animal, while it is in the egg or the uterus of the mother, in humans, the term is applied to the unborn child. Until the end of the 7th week following conception, from the 8th week, the unborn child is considered a fetus. That's the Mayo Clinic, Encyclopedia Britannica, and Oxford English Dictionary, dear listener. That's the pinnacle of the English language over there, Oxford. That's one of the most credible medical outlets in the world, the Mayo Clinic, and one of the most trusted educational resources in the world, Encyclopedia Britannica, and TYT. All of us agree that what Herschel Walker killed in the womb were babies. Thank you. And this man believes that we should be able to continue to kill babies. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. They said it. They said it. It's just a clump of cells. Shout out to the big homie Rem. I was out there one time, and of course a dude, because it's always a dude, went by after he got done telling us that he hopes our daughters get raped. He said, it's just a clump of cells anyway. And my man Rem said, yeah, but so are you. You're a clump of cells too. I asked this lady, I said, what's being killed in abortion? She said, the products of conception. I said, beloved, you are a product of conception. You're still a product of conception. Holy shit, we continue. Holy shit.
That's true. Really fast, we move on to the last video because we got to show you this. Imagine if the Republican Party of Georgia had just gone to a relatively big tire store and chosen the guy who owns it and ran him. They'd be up by like 8 points right now. They chose the most scandal-ridden person in the entire state, and it's still like that close. They could have chosen any dumb, regular Republican and walked away with this thing. What a bunch of morons.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is. I don't know what the field was. It seems to me that part of the Republican strategy is to use famous people. They saw that it worked with Trump. Herschel Walker is extremely popular in the black community. And so, especially in the black community in Georgia, he won a Heisman over there, I believe. And so I see the logic in it. It's fascinating to me that he has this issue with them selecting Walker, but I just saw a clip of him defending Fetterman and basically saying that eventually we need to find a candidate, you know, we need to find ways to get candidates who can't speak to give them accommodations to run for the Senate. And my question after the whole Fetterman debacle is, and you know, I just can't cover the Fetterman debate. I'm just not going to do it. You guys already know what it is. You saw what it is. I'm not going to be party to the mockery of a man in the condition that he's in. However, that's the question I've been asking on Democrats. I've been saying this is the best. This is the only guy you guys got for Pennsylvania. You know, the dude that was track starring and chased down a black dude with a gun because he looked suspicious. I thought you guys were all anti-racist over there at TYT. We continue.
Let's focus briefly on one moron, though, Lindsey Graham.
So I've seen this movie. I live 40 miles right over those hills there. I know Rabun County and I know Dillard really well. People here are not going to tolerate it.
No.
There's going to be a backlash in Georgia.
Yep.
No. Tolerate what? Tolerate a woman telling you her story? What are they not going to tolerate? You heard that lady? No. Shout out to her. But tolerate what? This woman, I thought you guys believed in free speech. I thought it was all the leftists that were all like snowflakes and stuff because they keep canceling people on Twitter, which I agree with, by the way. People who cancel people on Twitter are horrible. I was talking to a lady and she said, I think you're shadow banned. I have to look for all your replies. I said, hell yeah, I've been shadow banned by Twitter. Hell yeah, I have. But I thought it was only the people like that had a problem with speech. Why is there going to be a backlash at this woman's free speech? A backlash? You're not going to tolerate it? She doesn't get to speak? She doesn't get to speak her piece? She's got pictures of your boy in bed with her, bro. So she's not allowed to tell you what her experience was when they were together? Backlash. You know what, though? He used that word on purpose because it's a message to every other woman. Keep your mouth shut. We are not going to tolerate you in any way, shape, or form compromising our bid toward power. So you better keep your mouth shut. That's what that was, if you didn't know. We continue.
State. And it's still like that close. They could have chosen any dumb, regular Republican and walked away with this thing. What a bunch of morons. Let's focus briefly on one moron, though, Lindsey Graham.
So I've seen this movie. I live 40 miles right over those hills there. I know Rabun County and I know Dillard really well. People here are not going to tolerate it.
No.
There's going to be a backlash in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
This is coming from LA. It's coming from an activist Democratic celebrity lawyer who went to the 2016 convention for Hillary Clinton. And people in Georgia are not this dumb.
So let's just ignore the woman. Did you see what just happened? He's talking about Allred, another powerful elite person he's probably going to have drinks with after this is done. That woman's a multimillionaire, I'm sure. So he's talking about, oh, this woman came in from LA. We're not going to tolerate it. The girl was from Texas, though, or wherever they're from. But he's completely erasing this woman like she doesn't exist. Just whoop. The woman making the accusation, she doesn't exist. We're just going to talk about we're just going to talk about the lawyer, and then we're going to demonize the lawyer. We're going to get everybody to focus on the lawyer. And we're just going to completely disregard the woman and not even give her the respect of saying that you disagree or that she was lying. You don't even respect her enough to say that she's lying. You're just going to talk about the lawyer. Here we are.
Oh, just to clarify though, Gloria Allred wasn't pressured into having the abortion by Herschel Walker. It was
Correct.
the woman who very much did live there.
Correct. And notice what John just said. Pressured to have an abortion. So he used the term pressured. He pressured her. But Earlier in the video, Mr. Ida Roll, or whatever his name is, said that he doesn't see anything necessarily ethically wrong with what Herschel Walker did. Ladies, you better be listening. You better be listening.
They don't care. They don't care. The fact he's saying like they're not going to stand for it. There's going to be a backlash. There should be for the religious hypocrisy. There really should be, and they still are talking about this is coming from
No. I don't care about religious hypocrisy. What I do care about, though, is women being forced to make these horrible decisions and then being left to hold the bag emotionally and psychologically for the rest of their lives. And there's no recourse for them. That's the problem, not hypocrisy. I thought all these guys were pro-woman. I thought they were pro-choice. Wasn't that what it was?
This is coming from Hollywood. Put up your reality star president again. Honestly, they still love to pretend that they're not interested. Herschel Walker was chosen because he's a celebrity. I get that he doesn't live in LA, but you just chose the biggest celebrity that you could, a guy that you watched on TV for years and years.
The Republicans just choose stars. And for Lindsey Graham to say, oh, this came from LA, they thought, listen, Dr. Oz came from New Jersey. So you are importing people out of nowhere. You've got people because they're...
Right, later Applejack, all of that was to bring focus away from the woman. It's the same thing that the Biden apologists do with Tara Reade. It's the same thing. Ladies, if you don't understand this by now, you will never get it. Look at how these people treated Tara Reade. Think. Same thing with black people. That Fetterman dude chased down a black dude because he looked suspicious. He chased him down with a gun. And these guys are going to bat for him. I thought you guys were against racism. There is no difference between a white dude like this and a white dude on the Republican side. They don't give a fuck about women. They don't give a fuck about black people. What they want is the power and the ability to do whatever they want without any sort of consequences or accountability. That's what their value is. And if you're black and you still think that these white neoliberals are in your corner, or these so-called white progressives are in your corner when they do shit like this, which again, TYT, we have to say they're establishment. Okay, I don't know much about the progressive movement, but the flavor of a guy like Jimmy Dore or even a Breonna Joy Taylor is much different than what I'm seeing on TYT. Because at the end of the day, TYT rails against Democrats, but then at the end of the day tells you to vote blue no matter who. I just got done listening to Breonna. Breonna said that Obama was the last Democrat she voted for, which means she didn't vote for Hillary and she didn't vote for Biden. That's much different from what I'm seeing here. There's no difference between power-hungry, capitalist white men on the Republican side and dudes like this. There's no difference. They don't care about women. They don't care about the coercion of women. They don't care about the trauma of women. They sure as hell don't care about babies. They want to be able to use women, exploit women, have sex with women as much as possible. And if that woman gets pregnant, they want to be able to have the freedom, like Herschel Walker did, to drive that girl to the clinic after she changed her mind, sit there, intimidate her, get her pills, and then be done with her because you've already exploited her and she's already served her purpose. Go rewatch the video and see if I'm mischaracterizing these guys. But on the Republican side, make no mistake, they're not. These people are not pro-life in the sense of like a deep-seated conviction. They don't have any deep-seated. Man, they're out here. They're out here bringing out this Sambo, this Herschel Walker, whatever his name is, and doing all this shit because it's strategy, and that's the difference between this group of racist misogynists and the Republican group of racist misogynists. They're much better at strategy because their median age is about 10 to 15 years above progressives.
supposed to be celebrities. Now they've learned they just need TV stars and not NFL or whatever, stars from the University of Georgia or wherever he went.
Yeah, and look, that's a great point. Look, they know Dr. Oz from TV and Donald Trump from TV and Herschel Walker from TV.
It's effective. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we could get The Rock to run on Medicare for All. Because, I mean, at least he pretended to be a fighter and Bernie won't fight. Why don't you take something out of their playbook? Hell, what if Joe Rogan ran for president? Good night. Joe Rogan would get us Medicare for All, but these motherfuckers would vote against him. I guarantee you that. Listen, Joe Rogan could have a supermajority, right? We could have Dems in the House and the Senate, right? And if Joe Rogan ran on a Medicare for All platform, I guarantee you TYT would be against him. We are doomed.
Tudor Dixon was a host on right-wing media.
Carrie Lake.
They're all Carrie. I actually don't know where Carrie Lake is
TV
from.
host.
From
TV news host.
It's all from TV.
Okay, but she's gonna win. Carrie Lake's gonna win. After Fetterman's performance, God bless him. Oz might win and Herschel might win. So it doesn't matter. Win. It doesn't matter. Just win.
That's all it is. And why wouldn't it be? They don't need, Sarah Palin, that's a great point. Well, they don't need to know anything. They don't have to have experience. Experience, honestly, would be kind of an obstacle. Just believe whatever it is that we tell you right now you should believe. Be on the watch because it might change soon. But just believe whatever that is. Vote on the 2 or 3 things we actually care about. That's it.
Yes!
Also,
Yes! Right, John, you're starting to figure out. Yes! You know, I was watching a clip. There's this, later, Steven. Love you, buddy. Send me an email. We'll be talking to you tonight. Listen. I don't even know if I want to go. I don't want to go there. All right.
I don't know where Carrie Lake is
TV
from.
host.
From
TV news host.
It's all from TV. That's all it is. And why wouldn't it be? They don't need, Sarah Palin, that's a great point. Well, they don't need to know anything. They don't have to have experience. Experience, honestly, would be kind of an obstacle. Just believe whatever it is that we tell you right now you should believe. Be on the watch because it might change soon. But just believe whatever that is. Vote on the 2 or 3 things we actually care about. That's it. Also,
Right, and that's why they're successful and progressives are not. Correct. And by the way, that's not all bad. Our elected officials are not really supposed to think with an autonomous mind. Our elected officials are supposed to think with the mind of the people who elected them. John, I don't want an independent, autonomous thinking senator, congresswoman, or president. I don't want that. I want them doing what the people who voted them in told them to do. They're public servants. They're supposed to serve us. That's why we have things called elections. It's called a job interview. I don't need them to think for themselves. I need them to do what they said, what we said we wanted them to do when we put them in office.
We're not as dumb as they think we are.
No, they're not, because they keep winning and you keep losing. You can be articulate, you can say whatever you want, bruh, but y'all keep losing. Your side is so weak. I didn't even cover this because my stomach was, because I'm nauseous. But you know, AOC and the gang, the Justice Democrats, they wrote a letter saying, can we please be a little bit more diplomatic about this Ukraine-Russia bullshit? And they didn't mention the Nazism. They didn't mention the sex trafficking. Ukraine is like one of the top 3 worst European countries in the world relative to sex trafficking, even before this conflict. They didn't mention the Bandera. They didn't mention any of that stuff, because those are all Russian talking points. When you say any negative facts about Ukraine, those are Russian talking points. All they said was, we could be a little bit better at, you know, maybe negotiating for peace instead of stoking World War III. And they took that back. This is how this mentality, this is what this mentality gets you. Meanwhile, you can diss the lady from North Virginia. You can diss her. You can say she's got 3 teeth and she's married to her cousin, blah, 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 blah. But her agenda is getting passed at a federal level. So feel how you want to feel about her, bro.
It's like, listen, you're trying to convince them that you're tough, Lindsey Graham. If they're gonna believe that, they're gonna believe anything.
Yeah.
They don't need to believe in Lindsey Graham. I don't like Lindsey Graham's 15-week abortion ban. In my view, that increases abortions. We need a ban, period. I'm an abolitionist, but look, see, the lack of self-awareness among progressives is mind-boggling. Look at this man's face. Look at the satisfied smirk as if he's got something over this ignorant ass woman. You can feel how you want to feel, bro. But her agenda is getting passed in spades. Unbelievable, the arrogance of these people. The arrogance of these people. The absolute incredible.
Soon, but just believe whatever that is. Vote on the 2 or 3 things we actually care about. That's it.
Also, for we're not as dumb as they think we are. It's like, listen, you're trying to convince them that you're tough, Lindsey Graham. If they're gonna believe that, they're gonna believe anything.
You're being lied to by a guy who can't lie like convincingly, who can't put sentences together. I'm not saying the people of Georgia dumb. I'm saying that Herschel Walker thinks that they are. That's why he's not even bothering to really try to defend himself against these allegations.
Or Herschel Walker understands that it doesn't matter relative to policy what his personal peccadillos are relative to his moral character. He understands that the voters understand that. And you can make fun of that ignorant lady as much as you'd like, John. But she has an agenda and she's getting it passed. I was watching, there's this guy named Dame Pesos, and anytime the Young Turks have an election and they lose, they always melt down. And it's, if you're a petty person like me, still trying to be like Jesus the best you can, it's a good exercise of Schadenfreude. And there was one moment where they were sure they were going to win and they lost again. And John looks at Cenk and says, "What are we doing wrong? We have to change something. What are we doing wrong?" And Cenk says, "Nothing. We're not doing anything wrong. It's just the demons in the media." John, you were on the right track there. I think the progressives need to do some internal. They need to look at themselves in the mirror and ask the questions. Why do we keep losing? And these guys' inability to see the difference between a person's personal moral character versus how they will vote is absolutely fatal. Absolutely fatal to the progressive cause. And you know what? Maybe in the providence of God, God is darkening the minds of some of these people, because if they were efficient people, there'd be bloodletting all over the place with these children. So maybe God's going to take care of the children first and then give the progressives a mind so that we can get Medicare for all. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. But holy shit. TYT has hurt the left more than any right-winger could dream. I am sorry. I do not believe that. I think that TYT... Well, let me say it this way. The TYT that I ran into in 2016, when I began to say maybe I'll give this Bernie guy some maybe I'll give him a shot. TYT did a great job of me as a person who, at the time, I self-identified as a conservative. The conservatives kicked me out of their club. I've been excised from the conservative community. I've been told so many times I'm not really a conservative. I'm not really pro-life. I've asked these people, how many hours have you spent out there? How many depositions against the attorney general have you had to do by yourself in a room full of four state lawyers in order to continue to fight for life and fight for your teammates while you're on the ground? None of these people have ever done that, but I'm supposedly not a real conservative. Okay. But when I was a real conservative in 2016, it was TYT that kind of bridged the gap and was able to kind of break down philosophies and break down the major differences and vision cast for a different kind of America, because make no mistake, the progressives are talking about a completely different kind of America. So yeah, to Sims's point, 90% of rank and file Dem voters have no idea who TYT is. I agree with that. And I think that Cenk found that out when he went for that district over there and he got destroyed. I think Cenk figured that out, that a lot of people ain't on that train, bruh. And so when I was first introduced to TYT as a conservative, it was not a, quote, safe space environment, but it was an environment where I could sit and listen in and I say, you know, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Now it's different. I agree. Because now, I don't know if it's because I think 2020 was massively psychologically damaging to the progressive cause. I think Bernie actually is the one who has set fire to the progressive house, to be honest with you. And I think that when you look at AOC, there's a marked difference between even up to 2019. There's a marked difference between that AOC and post 2020 AOC, which is one of the reasons I gave her so many passes or whatever back in the day, is because I think Bernie's capitulation to Biden when it was so winnable and right there, and his lack of aggression disillusioned so many progressives. And we just saw it today where Brianna Joy Gray, yesterday she tweeted that Bernie threw progressives under the bus, and then today she just said the party was dead and she included Bernie, which is massively significant because she worked for him. And so what's happening now is progressives are completely and totally disillusioned, and I think they have different ways of expressing that or managing that. And one of the ways that TYT managed that pain and managed that disappointment is to project it all onto the right. So now Cenk can't go through a segment without saying that the right are monsters, saying that they're horrible, saying they're despicable. He's taken out all his Bernie pain on the right. So now when a conservative sits into TYT and says, let me give these guys a hearing, he immediately gets to hear that he's a monster and all, he's horrible, he's this and he's that. When I first listened to TYT in 2016, it wasn't like that. He just wasn't like that. He wasn't friendly to Republicans, but he always seemed to be cognizant of the fact that other people were watching the show. But now, after 2020, it just looks to me like he's completely lost his mind and lost his way. And Brianna Joy Gray, she's incredibly articulate. And there was a debate about whether or not she should have stayed on Rising, and I'm glad she did. Yeah, she compromised integrity a little bit, but again, if she gets off the show, then there's no hope for a progressive voice at all. So I'm glad that she took the mature route. And, you know, we saw what happened when BJG tried to talk some sense into Cenk. Cenk has this psychological tick where he has to keep talking about Jimmy Dore. So my point is, TYT, you know, that's a problem. You know, I think that they've really hurt the movement for sure. I just think that, and you know, this is part of, I hate to say it this way, but this is part of growing up. There's a lot of painful disappointments, and you got to figure out how to react and respond to those things in a constructive way. And I don't think that TYT has. It wasn't Bernie that made TYT Russiagate for 4 straight years. Trump broke their brains. That's fair. I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think Trump broke the brains of a lot of people on the left, and you know, they're not going to admit it. They're not going to admit it. They're not going to say that they were wrong for going along with the establishment on the Russiagate thing. And you know what? I don't need people to admit it. My personal code is, if you say shit out in public and you're wrong, you have to go out and correct it. And it can't be just a email correction. Like, you really have to correct it. That's my personal policy. But I just hope the next time something like this happens, progressives will say, this is an establishment war. Why am I joining with the establishment? Do I trust the establishment when they're going to war against this guy, or do they have an ulterior motive? Hopefully, that issue can be settled. All right, guys. Much love to everybody. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time.